Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk about motivation or lack thereof. First, let me just say motivation is BS because motivation can come and go. And if you're waiting to feel motivated before you work out or go to class, you're never going to progress. Motivation is a feeling. That's all it is. It can be a mindset, but honestly, there are days you just aren't going to feel like it. You can tell yourself, "Oh, you're a killer," you're, all this kind of stuff, motivational talk, but deep inside you just feel like, "Yeah, I don't feel like it." And that's perfectly normal. But the difference is that you go anyway. Let me tell you something. In all my years, both in fitness and in martial arts, that there have been plenty of times that I have not gone because I didn't feel like it, of course. But here's the fact that of all the times that I have went when I didn't feel like it, I've never regretted it. I've never left the gym or the dojo going, man, I wish I hadn't have gone. However, there's been many times, probably every time, that I have not gone and then later went, man, I should have went. So really, what does that tell you? That motivation is irrelevant. The fact is the consistency of going holds you accountable to yourself, and that always feels good. So maybe this is you. Maybe this is you. We just came out, or we're still in it, but we're just kind of coming out over a year of this COVID pandemic. And for majority of people, there's been social isolation. Gyms are closed. The dojos are closed. You can't train together unless you're, 100 feet apart. You got to wear a mask and a chemical suit and God knows what. You got to drown yourself in sanitizer. And I mean, really, it's the fact that over a year we haven't been able to train normally. And it has really caused a lot of challenges for people. And also the fact that, you can't go anywhere, you can't go to restaurants, bars, a hard time going to the store. All this social isolation has caused people to spend a lot of time in sedentary positions. So, and of course, all of the takeout and the snacking and things like that, health has declined. People are heavier, they're not in as good a shape, and they're not using their motor skills like they were. So, if this is you, I'm not putting you down. Believe me, we all experience it at some level or another. Some people use this time to better themselves. Some people use this time to educate themselves. Maybe they studied more, learned some things, whatever, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the average person going through all this thing that now here we are coming out, where training is starting to open up again. We're starting to see people returning to training. And here's the thing about that is that nothing is the same. We're not the same. And that's going to make a big challenge coming back to training. Think about the times that you have been out of training for more than maybe 2, 3 weeks or whatever, or even longer, maybe a month, 2 months or whatever, and then you come back to training. How was that for you? Did you find that it was just easy to just jump back into training? Probably not. I mean, really, if I miss a week, I feel it the next time I come back. So it becomes this almost like this like trying to reclaim your spot where you left off. And so for a lot of people, coming back to training, coming back to the dojo means having to really kind of just accept the fact that they're not as good a shape. They can't perform techniques as well. But also the other part too has to do with lifestyle, that when you remove something out of your pattern in life, other things take its place. So if you're used to going to class once or twice a week, let's say like my class is every Tuesday, Thursday, so and then suddenly there's no class, that Tuesday, Thursday night you would be in class now gets filled up with something else. Maybe it's binge watching Netflix or God knows what, but it's filled up with something else that now you want to come back to class. Well, now you got to make some adjustments. Maybe you need to stop doing certain things. Maybe you need to reshift your priorities. And that's difficult for a lot of people. Just like it was in the very beginning when you decided you wanted to take martial arts, you had to make some adjustments. You had to give up some things. Now here it is, fast forward. Now you got to do the same thing again. And for a lot of people, that's just that the that becomes too difficult. And so what motivation does, motivation gives you a honeymoon period. That's what it is. Motivation gives you a honeymoon period. So you're motivated for a period. And in that period, you're fired up and you're ready to go. So let's say your local dojo now says, hey, now we're going to start having classes. Come on down. You're going to be like, oh, yeah, great. I haven't trained in over a year. I'm dying. I want to get back. The thing that is interesting is psychologically, we yearn for things that make us feel normal again, especially with this pandemic and how everything was so chaotic that for a lot of people, training represents that connection when things were normal. And so they come back to training expecting to have that same experience, but it's not. It's not. It's not the same experience. You're different. The training environment might be different. Even the instructor teaching the class is different because they themselves have also gone through all of this. Things are different. And so there becomes this dissatisfaction that hits. The honeymoon period might last for a bit, but then it kind of gets squashed it's because maybe you're struggling more, the training is more difficult, you're having a hard time committing yourself to that weekly training class again. Maybe there's just a certain fire that's missing, maybe the instructor is struggling with some things are just different, and so people come back and then they fade back out. And I've experienced this in my own class, and I know other people have experienced this too. And maybe this is also you. Maybe you started out fired up and everything. Once you went to class, two classes, whatever, then suddenly it becomes more difficult. And then you start to question, why am I, am I really doing that? Or the I just don't feel like it. Going tonight, I'll go next week. And then next week comes, and it becomes easier to say, I'll go next week. So motivation is not enough. Motivation is only just going to give you that honeymoon period. So what do you do? What do? You want to go back to training. You want to come back. You're fired up. You're thinking, oh, great. First, you need to acknowledge the fact that you're not going to be the same coming back to training. You're just not. You're going to have some hard work ahead of you. And that's okay. Because why do you go to training? You go to training to improve. What are you improving? You're improving your current state of being, your current condition. So therefore, your current condition, you have to own that. So your current condition is a product of the decisions you made during this pandemic. Yes, you have to own that. Your current state is a product of the decisions you made over the last year or so during this pandemic. Did you sit on your butt and binge watch everything and play hours of video games and eat all kinds of crappy food and now you're like, bleh? Or maybe or whatever. Your current state is a product of your decisions. Even if you solo train, practicing all your stuff, you're still going to find that there's some struggles there because you didn't have live people to train with. There's going to be some atrophy as far as your application of techniques, but your motor skills may still be good. Maybe they've improved even, but when you apply them against partners, you're going to struggle a little bit because you haven't had that. I know for us, we trained a lot with um, Rokushakubo, Rokushakubo, the 6 foot staff. We trained, we even explored, we got into some spear and naginata, and yari and stuff like that. Things that were long distance. And so the first time we were able to then train at grappling distance or even punching distance was a weird experience because it's like now you're close. So there's going to be this weird adjustment period, and you have to be patient with yourself and don't be discouraged because you have to own who you are in this present moment and then work to improve that. So if that means that, oh, my distancing and timing is off because I'm not used to that, or my physical conditioning is off, I can't do that simple getty, I can't get that knee up in the air as high as I used to, or my God, I'm sweating just trying to hold kamae. So, that's okay. The fact that you're in class means you're already starting to improve. And this is a topic for another video where I can talk about deconstruction and reconstruction, that you have to be willing to deconstruct in order to reconstruct. You don't want to just slap paint on an old shack and say, great, it looks better. No, sometimes you have to tear things down and rebuild them in order to make them right from the ground up. And maybe that's what a lot of us need to do. Maybe a lot of us just need to return back to the basics and really return back to even our own physical conditioning, to really start to rebuild some of that. But again, it has to go back to this idea of a mindset that drives you through the ups and downs of your motivation. The motivation is like the waves in the ocean. Your mindset is the sail and the keel that you have to keep pointed in the right direction. So no matter what, up and down and everything, that you're just on target, on task, mentally focused, driving forward, even if you feel like garbage or you're just completely down, oh my God, whatever. You got to have that little spark in you that drives you forward. And you have that in you. It's in the back deep recesses of your mind. It's that little piece that has the free will to choose. That's a very powerful tool if you know how to use it. I talked about this in another one of my videos. That part is where mental strength comes from. And when you develop that, that supersedes motivation. That supersedes motivation. That's the part that's going to pull you through. And since we're learning an art that focuses on survival, how can you develop true meme, true perseverance, true survival if all you're doing is basing your participation on how you feel? Because getting your butt kicked sucks. Having to endure intense pain, starvation, cold, heat, all these things sucks. So, no, it doesn't feel good. And yes, it saps your motivation. But your mind, your mental focus and strength drives you through. And that's the part that you need to build. That fudoshin, right? The immovable heart, but just that mindset of not giving up. So if you're trying to go back to class and you're just like not motivated, you need to do a checkup from the neck up, and you need to take a look at yourself and do some hard talk with yourself and look in the mirror and say, what am I? Am I a martial artist or what, who are you? If you're if you have rank, let's say you're Shodan, Godon, Judon, whatever. What are you? I mean, you might have this belt around your waist and this really fancy patch and some fancy paperwork on the wall, but who are you? Who are you? If you can't even get to class because you don't feel like it, how do you expect to be a leader for others to follow? How do you expect to be the example? How can you call yourself a martial artist when you're too busy taking the backseat to your moods, emotions, and feelings? If you want to pursue excellence, you want to pursue growth, you got to do the uncomfortable, not the comfortable. It's the uncomfortable that's going to make you grow. So get out there, get the training going, find out who's offering those classes, and don't wait another day, week. Don't, because you're not getting any younger, number one. Number two, if you're still doing the same things you were doing through the pandemic, you're probably getting unhealthier. And number three, you want to call yourself a martial artist, be a martial artist. Walk your talk. So anyway, I don't want to start to sound like some kind of video, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. And this is the hard conversation I think that people need to have with themselves. Who are you? And it's time that we get busy. It's time we get busy. As a community of martial artists, it's time we get busy. No more games. Hatsumi Soke said several years ago, playtime is over. I mean, really, stop playing. If you're training for real life and death, we're in life or death situation right now with COVID. But how much chaos has been introduced into our daily lives, and we're going to let that squash the the Budo spirit, this warrior spirit inside of us. We're going to let that squash that? Come on. Really? Just because you don't have a nice air conditioned gym, you got to go train in the park because you're not allowed to train indoors, or oh my God, I have to wear a mask, or oh my God, you know, I have to sanitize my hand. I mean, really, come on. Just train. Keep training and don't stop. Don't let this get to you. There's no point in you calling yourself a martial artist if you're too busy sitting on the couch because you don't feel like going down there, going down and putting in some training. I mean, really, you might as well just hang up your belt, take your certificates off the wall, put them in the closet, put them in a box, and just RIP, rest in peace. I mean, really. So I know that sounds a little harsh, but honestly, I think it's time that we need to act like grown-ups about certain things. And if you're one of those guys or women that's struggling with your motivation, ditch the motivation. Take a mindset that says, I'm going to make myself better than I was before the pandemic. Make yourself a 2.0 version of yourself starting today, because now is the only opportunity you have, not tomorrow. Anything can happen tomorrow. We've had some fantastic senior teachers that have passed away. Hatsumi Soke is pretty much, I mean, not pretty much, he is retired. We've had Seno Daishion pass away, or Guri Daishion pass away. I mean, now is the time. Now is the time. And whether you get to Japan or not, because nobody can get to Japan right now, life doesn't end. Life doesn't end. You are still responsible for you. Find people to train with. Find the right people to train with who are still passionate, who are still focused, who are still putting in the hard work. It's not about who's writing books and having great videos like mine, or fantastic websites and doing all these things. It's not about that. It's the guys that are still getting sweaty. That's the people you want to stick to. The guys that are still putting in the reps, that are still out there doing the hard work. And they're out there. Go find them and be with them and train. And if you can't find them, be that guy. So, all right. It's enough for me on that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the support. And as I always say, stay happy, stay healthy. No matter what anybody says, no matter what your situation is, just keep training. You can do it.